Hello and welcome to another Touchy Gooners podcast. It's your boy Dankoogs on hosting duty today, and I'm here with my brother, Mr. Shabs. How you doing, man? My man.
Yo, yes. I'm all right, man. Same as usual.
Yeah. We're keeping it calm and collected at the moment. There's not much Arsenal developments in terms of transfers going on right now. I think in the next couple of days we'll probably hear some more news, but otherwise it's the same old. On Friday just gone, Arsenal played their first, pre-season friendly. This was, I think, a behind the closed doors friendly, so no fans there. I think the Friday coming is going to be the first pre-season game with fans, playing FC Nuremberg in Germany. So that is definitely one to watch. We've seen some training pictures. Gabriel Jesus has been signed this week, announced Monday morning. I'm seeing Marquinhos there with the boys. I'm seeing all this Brazil, posting from the club. So, how do you feel now that that Jesus signing has finally been announced? That saga, as it were, is now finalized.
There are going to be loads of Mexican waves at the Emirates. That I can just tell. I know it's the Mexico, Brazil, but it's going to be samba time over.
South American vibes, yeah.
Samba time, all the way samba time. I'm happy with it. I'm very happy with the signing. I think that's an excellent signing for us. To be fair, I think my thoughts about him have been documented. I jumped on the end of the Patreon piece that you and Lou done as well, where again I got my thoughts in there. I recognize not everyone's a patron. If you're not, why not? You need to sign up. Get loads of fab, excellent content. That's me shamelessly plugging it. But yeah. I'm happy about it. I'm excited. I can't lie. I saw the press releases and the images as well, and him standing, at the top of the Emirates, with his arms outstretched, looking like one Brazilian monument. I don't want to upset any Christians or Roman Catholics out here, but yeah, he was looking like the man, and it's exciting times, man. I can't wait to see him play. I can't wait to see him play his first competitive game for us. I'm praying for debut goals, not one debut goal, debut goals for him. And yeah, man, I do. I've always liked him as well, so slightly biased, but yeah, man, I don't really think there's question marks. I think he's a player who's already demonstrated that he's got the minerals. He already knows the league. He's still young, and he's still got points to prove. Despite the fact he's got his 4 league titles, he's still got points to prove. And he's still got, some people are questioning his goal scoring ability. I like the fact that when he done his interview for us, they asked him what his best position was, and he just kind of put it to bed and said, striker, I'm the number 9. I want to be a striker here. So
he wants to clap goals, boy. He said he wants to clap goals. So
I'm looking forward to that for him.
Yeah, and I definitely think that's that's a positive sign, right? Because we see Tim Vickery and what he was saying on Sky Sports, and I think he's a very good pundit, especially when it comes to South American football. And I think that aspect of things that he mentioned, sort of about Gabriel feeling a little bit disillusioned with himself about being a number 9 for club and country. And I thought that was a nice little insight to, the personality of the player. He mentioned that, not scoring at the World Cup was something that he took very personally, and to me that says this is a guy that's very ambitious. He wants to do well, not just for country, but also for club as well. And I think, as we've seen it, his minutes per goal, I think we're going to be banging this out until we play the first Premier League game. But the minutes per goal for Gabriel Jesus is right up there with the best, in the Premier League. That this guy, hopefully with the minutes, can be a bit of a shooter. So I like that from him. He said he's a number 9, not just a striker. He said he's a number 9.
Number 9,
I'm a number 9, and I'm here to score goals, right? So and on top of that, he did say that he wants to help the team as well outside the goal. So I'm very much looking forward to seeing him in an Arsenal shirt. I think they showed some clips on the website of him packing in Matt Turner and Leno already. So hopefully long may that continue. And what I find quite interesting is that with the Marquinhos signing as well. So we were speculating in the WhatsApp chat that this guy is definitely going to be one for the future. They're going to loan him out immediately, but it looks like he's been given this opportunity to impress in pre-season, and we've seen it in the past when Arteta doesn't want you around or he doesn't figure you in the plans. We're not going to relitigate, but Matteo Guendouzi, William Saliba, etc. If the loan is in the plans, we've got that loan manager now. You're off quite early, and he gives you the preseason to really sort of prove yourself and showcase whether or not you're ready for first team football. So, do you think it's a possibility now that Marquinhos might end up involved in some first team plans? Because I'm actually looking at it, and I think that Marcelo Flores, he didn't go with the team on this tour. Miguel Aziz also didn't go with the team on this tour to Germany as well, and they were both playing friendlies for the under 21s. So do you think it's a possibility now that Marquinhos might end up being involved with some first team football this season?
Absolutely, it's a possibility. Definitely, it's a possibility. If you ask me a different question about the likelihood, I think that's a different. That's I'll be throwing a different answer there. I like the signing, yeah, but I like what the signing represents, yeah, which has always been Arsenal having one or two obscure picks, yeah, players who no one really knows anything about, and trying to find gems, picking gems out of the dirt, really. And he represents that kind of signing in that no one really knows anything about him, really. I doubt, even though I was avid fans, unless you're a dedicated viewer of Brazilian football or South American football, I doubt most fans would really know. These shorts would really know who he is. So he's a young player. I think, yeah, this is an opportunity for him to kind of be in and around the team. I think him settling into the team will be eased by the Brazilian contingent there. There's Martinelli, there's Gabriel, there's Jesus. Am I missing someone else out? There would have been Rafinha as well. But yeah, I think it's an opportunity. I think Martinelli is a good example and probably a good blueprint for him as well. They could be saying like, look at what this kid has come in and been able to do. So if you apply yourself and you dedicate yourself to the cause, there's no reason why this can't be you. And then the rest is really just about the opportunity he's going to get. I think in pre-season, he should get minutes. Like, what? If you can't give this guy minutes in pre-season games, forget about it. Let's just be honest, like, forget about it. He's not coming to do any kind of job here. But yeah, and then I think if he impresses in pre-season in a similar way that Martinelli was able to, I think, there's a case and a point for saying, actually, let's keep him around. Let's see what he can do. Let's see if he can be useful. Let's see if we can give him cup minutes. Let's see if we can give him Europa League minutes. Let's see if we can kind of bring him off the. Let's see if he can make match day squads. Let's see if we can bring him off the bench. So yeah, I think there's a possibility, but low key, I'm a bit excited about it. Just because I might watch. This might change with me watching the first game. I might say, nah.
This guy's cheeks, yeah.
Nah. But right now, there's no reference point, and I quite like that. It's not often now that we can say that about players that we sign. There's no reference point. We're all quick to go on YouTube and do comps, or we've all seen these players play somehow, somewhere. I don't know nothing about this guy, so
yeah. And I think it's almost like, sort of back to the olden days, right? Where, we've got so much information now about all of these players. Yeah. Like the moment we get linked with someone, boom, let me go get World of Football Scout up on YouTube. Let me go get Brazilian Scout up on football and watch the top comp makers do their work, right? Let me go look at FB Ref. Let me go look at Understat, this, that, and the other, right? And we have all this information at our fingertips. But with some of these, sort of unknown and uncovered gems, Brazilian football, this is where, Edu can really do his magic and surprise us, kind of thing. Like teletext. I remember the last signing that I think I sort of felt like this. I remember exactly where I was. So Toby and his brother were at my yard, right? Like little family get together. We're in the garden, like playing with a tennis ball, trying to play pat ball or something like that. And then tossing Toby's brother, he tells me, "Oh yeah, Arsenal just signed this guy Hleb. Did you hear about this? This is like 2006, 2007.
Yes, 2006 still, yeah.
And I'm like, oh, who the hell is that, right? Like, do you know what I mean? And then when you watch him, you're like, rah, this guy's wavy. You know what I mean? Yeah. And that's like a complete surprise because I don't know where we signed him from. Was it I can't remember. He went back there. He went back there. It was a team. It was a team in Eastern Europe as well that we signed him from random. And then Hleb became one of my favorite players because I didn't know anything about him. And when I saw him, I was so impressed with the way that he dribbled, the way that he carried the ball, and his level of technique. I thought was amazing. Pro 6. He was one of the guys, shot feint, square X. Yeah. He was one of the guys that worked every single time. Yeah. Every single time it was perfect with him. Yeah. So he was one of my favorite players. So every time there's now like an unknown gem, it always reminds me of back then where this is someone who I literally know absolutely nothing about. That's probably one of the reasons why I'm such a big fan of Martinelli, is that it's a breath of fresh air for someone to come where you have absolutely zero expectations and they come, hit the ground running and surprise you. Like, I think I was at the game for Martinelli's debut in the Europa League. My man scored a brace, and I was like, "Yo, who is this? Who is this kid?" Do you know what I mean? Who's this kid? Because they were two great goals as well. I think it was a header cross goal, and then another one in the box where it was like a quick touch and finish in the bottom corner. And I was like, "Yeah, wow, we might have picked out a gem." So if Marquinhos can come and give us that same feeling, I'm not going to complain. I'm not going to complain too tough about that one either. So we have this question in the comments actually from Femster82. So this is another one, in the same sort of boat where he goes, "Who the hell came out with this Edon Zegrova rumor?" Yeah, I don't even know if that's how you say his name.
He done a better job trying.
Yeah, so random, and I agree, it is so random. But one thing I will say about Arsenal this summer and last summer as well, even going back to January where we signed Matt Ryan out of nowhere, is that these men are trying to keep the transfer business under wraps. So I'm not going to say that this is definitely a lie, but I would actually be surprised now if this rumor turned out to be true, that it's a random guy from left field that we've now made a move for, instead of something like a big name, because it looks to me that Arsenal are trying very much to keep their business under wraps, keep a lot of their business left field, unpredictability, try and find these gems, try and do the scouting, try to do the analysis for specific roles within the team. So I've not looked at any comps, right? I've said I've refused. I'm going to wait until maybe a bigger name reports it, because I think it's just come from one journalist at the moment who's based in Kosovo, I believe, something like that. So, a bit of a random link for someone to just make that up completely out of nowhere. So, I reckon that's one to watch the space. But Shabs, did you watch any comps of him? I'm going to assume you've not seen him live and direct. I know you're in the weeds with these guys, but I think this was too far even for you.
No, this one's too far, even for a guy like me, it's way too far. Like, I'd never heard of this Don before. When they said he's playing for Lille, I was even surprised. I can't lie to you. I'm like, Lille, like, this guy can't be someone in their starting lineup. But I think he's only recently just come and been signed by Lille, to be fair. I think, word on the road is that he was picked up in January. I've never heard of this guy. I started to watch a compilation. I can't lie. I don't get sold by these comps. I started to watch the compilation. I turned it off after about 1 minute and 37 seconds because I said, you know what? I can't this ain't for me, innit? I can't do this.
The ones where you're they can't have me on, the club can't have me on strings like this.
They can't have me like this. Like, they got me in a chokehold. Like, I'm saying, listen, like, I'm dying for targets here, and then they get one guy to just blow smoke. Yeah, I think he was from Belgium, actually. The report, I think, maybe. Again, I could be wrong. I say I can't. I'm watching compilations. He's doing skills against players on one training ground complex. I said, nah, man, what am I watching here? There's no one. There's not even stands. There's no stands where he's doing. It's not even like this is like under 23. I said, I can't. I had to turn it off. I'll be honest with you. He might be good. I might be foolish for doing so. You know, I might let's see if these links become stronger and tangible, and then I'll pull the files on him. You know, we'll do our due diligence. You know, you might catch me and Cougs here doing a Patreon piece on that in a couple of weeks to come. Who knows?
I don't know. I reckon we might struggle for clips there. You know, we might have to go into the archives to find clips on my man. But you know,
I have faith in our ability to do that still.
I back us as well, Shabs. Yeah, so you know that will definitely be one to watch. As we said, you know, there might be some truth to it the way Arsenal have conducted their business. So you know, you never know, but. Until it's further confirmed, if I see an Ornstein tweet on that, then I'll get more invested. But otherwise, that's a link. It's a link. It's one link amongst many. It's one link amongst many, right? So yeah, we'll see what happens in that space. So in actually the in the game on Friday, there's just one topic that I think is worth mentioning, right? So Eddie Nketiah. Fresh off his number 14 acclamation, right? He decided that, boom, he's not going to waste any time, straight in from pre-season. For me, pre-season last season, I was very impressed with Eddie. You know, I thought he came in and he looks like our best striker immediately from pre-season in a number of games, right? I think it was a game against Watford where he was very good off the left. You know, gave the right back some work, cut inside, scored a very nice finish as well against Chelsea in that sort of, I can't remember, it was like a little tournament that we done for charity with Chelsea and Spurs last season.
Them funny tournaments, the Audi Cup,
He came on against Chelsea and looked very good. And I think in the game, Chelsea at home, he came off the bench, fresh off the injury, and looked quite sharp as well. And so, you know, that did, for all intents and purposes, continue into the season, right? We know he was very good in the League Cup. I think he scored 7 goals in. Was it 7 goals? Not 7 goals. I think he scored 5 goals in the League Cup. 5 goals in the League Cup last season, including a hat-trick. At one stage as well, and he didn't actually play.
Third round, he hit a hat trick. Where we beat 6-5.
Sunderland, I think it was. Sunderland. Yeah. Scored against Leeds as well, and he didn't actually play in the games against Liverpool, home or away. You know, which is quite telling. I think it was Lacazette. Obviously, we got the early red card in the first leg, and in the second leg, Lacazette played as we got dispatched, right? So, I do think that is, interesting, probably unfair on him to not get the nod in those games. But that then form continued into the Premier League as well, where he scored 5 goals in the 8 appearances that he made at the end of the season. So, I do want to put not the most stock, but I'm going to put a little bit of stock into that performance. Obviously, it's a preseason game against who is it that we played? Ipswich, right? League One opposition. I think they were slightly ahead in their preseason preparation. I think their season starts a week before ours does. So they should have been slightly fitter than us, but we dispatched them. And Eddie, started the game, scored inside 25 seconds. With a very good finish into the bottom corner. And then, first half hat trick for him. He got his 45 minutes under his belt, and got some rest for it. But I do want to put small stock in that, because to me that's a guy that's hungry, man. That's a guy that's hungry. I think people say you don't put too much stock in preseason, but if you have a poor preseason, when you're not bagging, we look at Aubameyang last preseason. He didn't score a single goal. He went 0 for 7 in all of our preseason games, and
carried that on into the season.
He carried that on into the season, right? So, not that, Eddie's going to start scoring hat tricks every year, but I like the fact that it looks like he's putting the work in the off season, He's seen that, Arsenal are, looking for a striker. And for me, he says, look, I'm up for the fight. I'm not going to let my man come and take my spot without me showing what's what. He's, I'm going to say pause, but you've seen the physicality of him, the topless pictures that he's posting, this, that, and the other. He looks shredded. He looks like he's put on muscle. He looks like he's ready for the battle. You know what I mean, right? So I'm quite encouraged by, I think, the attitude that he's showing. That he's taking that number 14 shirt, and I think he really wants to, show out in it. Really wants to show out in it. So, what are your thoughts on Eddie coming into the season?
Thoughts on him for this year, for this season?
Yeah, for this season,
or just in general. I think,
just in general.
Yeah, I agree with so much of what you said. Just about pre-season, attitude to pre-season. I think that this is what happens when there's a show of good faith from club to player and from player to club as well. I think that show of good faith in him, we could say, like, actually is long overdue. Like you said, there were times in games where he was overlooked, where we believe he should have played. He should have been given a nod. I think if you're going to start him in cups, you have to have fidelity to him and kind of start him throughout the cups, regardless. If the opposition changes, then you leave him in there and you tell him to step up and keep it. Just show us what you can do, especially over Lacazette, who we're glad that chapter's finally ended. But I think finally it's come. There's been some faith in him from the coach and from the club, and I think he understands that as well. And similarly, I think he's taking it on and saying, yeah, continue to give me these opportunities and I'm going to show you this is what I'm going to do and this is how I'm going to perform. And, I keep going back to that interview as a reference point. And I think what he said was true there. There are players who he's played at the same level during his younger days, youth days for England and whatnot.
Captaining them.
And when he thinks about the differences, it's just that their exposure to opportunity and game time, that's what they've got over him. Doesn't necessarily believe that they're better players than him. And I don't. I think we could talk about different positions or whatnot. I don't necessarily believe they're better players in terms of higher levels. I think with Eddie, there haven't been a lot of reference points for him because he hasn't been given loads of opportunities. And, Dan, you've been on record here before speaking about his loan opportunities and the way that we've managed or mismanaged them. And, he's been out on loan, not really been given the opportunities. Then we've recalled him when actually, arguably, he could have stayed. If we were going to recall him, then the idea should have been to use him. We've recalled him and not used him. It's all just been a bit of a mess up, but hopefully we're at a crossroads now. I'm very happy with the signing of Jesus, but, I think he's... what I want from Eddie is to demonstrate that he's an able backup. Yeah, that he's a striker who is able to not just come in and deputize for Jesus, but who can push Jesus as well, who can really push him and say, like, you actually have to stay sharp and you have to stay on job and you have to get these goals for us, Brazilian number 9, because I'm here wearing the number 14 and I will take my opportunities and I will score goals. I think that's what we need.
You need to clap, because if you're not clapping, I'm going to come in. I'm going to come in and clap. Do you know what I mean?
I'm hungry and I'm all for this development for players and whatnot. But the position that we've been in as a club, we can't afford niceties. Yeah, we can't rest on niceties and be saying to these players, "Oh no, but we need to give him time." I think some people were quick to formulate an opinion on Eddie. I think I'm fairly formulating an opinion on Eddie. But what Eddie's showing is that if he gets games and opportunities, he can score goals. It's just about what level he can continue to hit the goals or what level of opposition he can get those goals against. And we saw him score some goals against some top sides. We know he scored against Chelsea in the league last season. We know did he get a goal against United? I don't think he scored in that.
No, he got disallowed offside.
But he was threatening. He's threatening. And you could argue that, well, those are sides that weren't particularly playing well, performing well at the point that we played them. But I think, he showed enough in his overall performance, to say that actually he's willing to have an effect on games. So, Yeah, I'm not about the niceties. I think he has to be hungry and he has to push my man. And that's it. I think what I want from him is to show us that we're right not to dip into the market for a number 2 striker, a backup striker as well. We've got our backup striker. He's wearing the number 14. And I want him to prove that it was not just a kind of one season, half season thing, that actually he's really applying himself and respecting the game. And he's about his goals. He's about his business. And I love the way he plays for the club. He plays like he plays like he's got a chip on his shoulder. He plays like he's got a point to prove.
Hungry.
I like that.
And you know what, Shabs? I would love to get your opinion actually on just this. It's like a theory of mine that I've had, right? So like just about, I guess, the transition from youth football to men's football, right? And in my head, I think I've basically concluded to myself that like 95% of it is down to physicality. So like I think it's so interesting. So number one, so there was I put out a couple of tweets right this week, I think, and number one was just about the amount, you know how in like football and families, the amount of times it's the youngest brother that makes it, in the sport, and people are like, oh, I wonder why that is. But for me, it's because that younger kid, his brothers, they'll be very good at football, very good, but they might not be just quite at the level to necessarily make it, right? Like you look at Paul Pogba, I think he's got 2 older brothers who both play football, but he's the one who is like the outstanding one, the world class one. You look at the Willocks, all 3 of them at top clubs, but it's only Joe who's been able to, the youngest one, who's been able to come through. And I think there's so many examples of that as well, time and time again, right? And they look at in other sports, LeBron James's kids and stuff like that, right? They're saying that the youngest one is the best one. He's got the best technique, this, that, and the other, the best handles. I think that's what they call it in basketball. And so like I'm looking at this and I'm saying, look, in my head, the reason for that seems quite clear. That the youngest one, he's trying to play with the olders, and the olders, they're playing with people who are sort of similar age to them, and then the youngest one, because they're all bigger than him, his technique's got to be A1 in order to cope with the added physicality, right? And then if you compare, I think young strikers is probably the best example, So if you compare someone like Romelu Lukaku, Tammy Abraham, to someone like to someone like Eddie Nketiah, right? Or following Balogun, Or if you want to look at midfielders, English midfielders, you got someone like Ross Barkley, who was a unit from early, right? From when he was 18 years old. This guy's like 6'1", muscles for days. Do you know what I mean? He can impose himself and do bits from 18. Wayne Rooney, right? 16 years old, looking like a man already.
The man body.
Physical, sprinting, bodying people, this, that, and the other, right? And then you compare that to some of these other youngsters, like a Josh McEachran or something like that, right? Who's supposed to be a top talent, technically under 23. They look amazing.
However,
but then when it comes to it, another example I just thought of was the Chalobah brothers, right? Trevor being the youngest one, he's the one that's finally actually made it at
Chelsea.
Chelsea, right? And so for me, a lot of it is just linked to physicality, because for that, I think that's the biggest difference between academy football and men's football, is the fact that you might be the quickest, you might be the strongest in under 23s, and that means your technique looks amazing, because I remember Hector Bellerin looking absolutely nuts in the under 23s
when he's playing the kids,
playing the kids, running P&Ping them for days. When he played Dortmund, this guy looked like a rabbit in the headlights. Do you know what I mean? And it took him some time to put on a little bit of muscle. Not that he ever got like massive, but he put on a bit more physicality wise, and he looked like a different player. I look at Mesut Ozil when he first came to the league. People were worried about him being able to cope with the physicality, and I think in that second season, you could see his chest in that tight Puma kit. You could see his chest was bigger. You could see his arms were bigger. His shoulders were bigger. Do you know what I mean? And then I think he had his best 2 seasons, the 2 years after he signed it. So I'm looking at it, and I think the Tammy Abraham versus Eddie comparison for me is one that I like to use, because Tammy, 6'3", big physical striker, but I don't think he's the best technically. I would even say I think Eddie Nketiah is better than him technically.
Technically,
You know what I mean? But being able to deal with the physicality, and I don't just mean centre backs up your back, but I mean the number of sprints that you have to do, the number of duels that you have to be involved in, the anaerobic part of the game, right? And being able to do it again and again and again, and being able to maintain that intensity is where I think someone like Eddie would find it hard, right? So when I'm looking at so I was watching some preseason games, and you just end up in a YouTube hole. End up in a YouTube hole trying to go to bed and that. And I was watching these preseason clips from Unai Emery's first preseason, right? And I'm seeing Eddie there, and I'm comparing Eddie to him now. Like, he's not any taller, but he looks like a completely different player. Do you know what I mean? Completely different player. And I think he's always had these goal scoring instincts. We've seen it under 21s and that for England. But I think now is the only time where he's able to effectively show out, because his body's now in a position to play men's football. So I'm just interested to know your opinion on that, because I think that is now probably the thing most important when you're talking about getting these guys to make the step up.
Yeah, and I think your theory is so interesting, actually. As you was talking about that the footballing families, I feel like that's spot, and it makes me like, and it's the reason I'm 9 years older than my brother. It's the reason he's better than me at football. Do you see what I'm saying? Because I used to bring him as a kid to Mabley to play with me and the Mandem. So when it came to him bucking with like playing at his level, it was nothing. Do you know what I mean? Like, and he's just a lethal clinical striker. Like everyone that knows him, he's a finisher. But yeah, he knew how to cut it, because he was playing with big guys. Like, we was big teenagers at the time. You see what I'm saying? And like early 20s, he's playing with us. So yeah, I hear you. But just to come back and make it specific about your point in transitioning, I think it's so key in the men's game now. And I think you see it, like the examples that you've given, for example, about Nketiah, that's a fantastic example, because these are players who, probably all the noise was about them, all the fuss was about them when they were younger. Similar, Billy Gilmore, is another example of that. I still have loads of links to academy football and whatnot. But I remember going down to Cobham a couple of years ago to watch one of my guys playing in the Chelsea academy at the time, and Billy Gilmore was there for the age group. Actually, he was playing the year up, and you can see technically quality, absolute quality, but you could see he's slight, very, very slight. Not really having the physique or the profile at that level. Though it's absolutely fine. The moment you start getting first team appearances, though, for Chelsea, it's different kettle of fish. You know what I mean? Like, you're not dealing with other 16-year-olds or 17-year-olds or 18-year-olds who have a cap and you have a limit. You're dealing with men, of all shapes and sizes, of all body types, of all 8 levels of experience. You know what I mean? And so it comes into it. And I think what it is as well is, it's one thing getting the physicality, but it's knowing how to use your body as well to your advantage. And this is the thing with the example that you gave about Eddie, for example. Eddie's definitely grown, but he's known how to use his body. If you think about Emery and the Emery tenure and that first preseason, that was about 3 years ago now, wasn't it? That was
2019 it was,
2019 season, So 3 years ago. So 3 years ago, he's 22 now. 3 years ago, he would have been 19. Yeah. So, just stopped growing, in terms of or maybe it depends, because some people say you stop at 18. Sometimes they say you actually stop at 21. But yeah, he would have just stopped growing. So that would have been like his optimum height. And yeah, he's got to learn how to use his body. And I think, again, part of it is, again, getting the exposure so training is one thing, training and being in and around these guys is one thing, but actually getting the games, getting them actually helps you to be able to learn, all right, this is how you have to use your body, this is how you have to use your body to your advantage, these are your limitations, because everyone's got limitations. And in terms of physical development as well, it's players do have to be careful, because sometimes they start bulking up and then all of a sudden you see them start losing some speed or picking up some soft tissue, muscular injuries and whatnot. So you have to be they have to be quite careful. And again, I think it's the access to the information. And these athletes, they're athletes really at these top level clubs, in these top level environments. Yeah, they really they should be looking after their bodies anyway. They have access to like the top information and whatnot. So it really is about them being able to look after their body, but it's easier said than done. Not everyone does it. Not everyone takes it seriously. Not everyone applies it in the same way. But I do think that physicality is a big part of it. And like you said, it's not me saying them learning how to use their body is just one part of it, but it is about the other stuff. It's about the anaerobic stuff. It's one thing when you're because as the levels go up, and now you're playing in the men's game, the technical level is the sky, literally the sky. You might have players there who are bums, and you might have players there who are like Ozil level technical ability. You know what I mean? So it's like, how do you find your place in all of that? And so, yeah, you have to be good at some of the anaerobic stuff. Absolutely. Everyone's pressing that. Yeah. So you have to be able to press when your team don't have the ball. But when your team do have the ball, you have to spring into action. So it's being able to do that, being able to do the high intensity sprints, having to, Eddie's a player who likes to run in behind, for example. So having to stretch the line. So you might have to run 4, 5, 6 times, in the space of a couple of minutes, or to threaten to run, to do that motion to go in behind, or to come deep. It's about being able to do things at this high intensity level, at a highly repeatable level, time and again. And this is not a bit off topic, it's linked to it, but I say a player, for example, like what's his name, like Carl Walker. Carl Walker. I think Carl Walker, for example, and obviously we're not talking about him integrating into the men's game anymore, but if you think about him and his sprint threshold and the volume of high intensity sprints he makes per game, and you don't pick up this stuff normally actually when you're watching him on TV or whatnot, but when you see him live, you realize this guy is sprinting. Yeah, he's doing like 40 yard, 50 yard, 60 yard dashes time and again, time and again, time and again. Sometimes he's just covering runs. Sometimes he's running, competing 1v1 with his jaw. Like sometimes it's something else. So yeah, you have to be able to do these things as a player. And yeah, I think that the better you are of being able to kind of adapt and integrate as a youth player into the men's game and be able to do these things, the better chance you stand. Really, it doesn't mean it's not. I don't think it's conclusive. Like if you can't do it, then you don't have a chance of being successful. It still happens, but I think your odds are increased if you're able to integrate and incorporate that side. Definitely.
Yeah, definitely. So yeah, let's get into some listeners' questions as well, because we've had a few that have come in. So first one, someone said cheeky Chobid earlier, right? So we had this discussion in the group chat a bit earlier, a bit back and forth. Which conveniently, Shabs, you and I were on the opposite sides of the table on this one, right? So you said you take him. You said you take him. So
the man them was cooking me. Listen, the man them were cooking me for saying I would take Cho, and sometimes what it is, yeah, it's like we're working people in it. Like I'm working in it, so I'm just kind of in between messages and I'm throwing stuff in there, but I don't really have time to explain or articulate my point. I might be in the middle of a Teams call or whatever. I come back and man, them are cooking me like blah blah blah. What are you talking about or whatnot? I said I would take Cho. Unpopular opinion. I believe that Cho is a better footballer than Martinelli. Yeah, I believe that. Yeah. Now, that doesn't mean, yeah, that I think Martinelli is a bad football player. I think Martinelli is a very good football player. I rate Martinelli very highly. I think on ability, on technical ability, I think Cho is a better player than him. Yeah. Now, like, and you made a good point, Dan. And I don't think, and this is it. Sometimes I can make a point, yeah, but I'm not married to it. So it's like, yeah, I can agree with different things. Now, you made a good point about ability. Now, ability actually doesn't actually mean anything if you don't show for it on the pitch. And I think that's spot on with Cho. But I also think environment has a part to play in it as well. And I think the environment and the platform for which Cho's been given to perform, similar to what I'm saying about Eddie Nketiah, and actually he's got now we've got a reference point. He's been given opportunities, and we've seen what he could do. I don't think Cho's been given consistent opportunities for whatever reason, and that might be his fault. That might be because he's a bad trainer. It might be because he's not deserved it or whatever. But I think if he were given consistent opportunities and he were playing in the right environment, in his natural position, which I think is an attacking player, I think he's got a lot to offer many teams, and I think he's a good carrier of the ball. I think he's a decent 1v1 threat. I think he's a decent creative player. I think also he makes good decisions and good choices in the final third. Yeah, and I think he can score goals. Yeah, I think he's got. Obviously, we've not seen enough of that consistently enough or reliably enough from him. But I think these are things about his game that I have seen when I have watched him that I've liked. And when I was asked, I said I wouldn't be prepared to spend any more than 35 or 40 million on him. And people was cooking me again for that. But that's realistic in terms of that's really like, I think if Chelsea sell him today, that's in and around what they're selling him for. Like, really, like, he's a young English talent. That's what these players are going for. So I don't think I was far-fetched or out of line. But the man them cooked me. I haven't changed my opinion from earlier today. I would still take him. And when I say I'll take him, it's not like, yeah, he's not on my list of, if you gave me like 10 wingers to name, he won't be on my list of 10 players. But if I'm saying actually there's an opportunity to sign him and it made sense for us, I'll take the chance on him. Why? I personally, I would. So that's what I mean by that. But yeah, that's still my view on him.
Yeah, fair play. And yeah, as I said, I was on the other side of the table, right? So for me, if we had, I guess, more established senior wingers, I probably would take a punt on Cho as well. I don't think your valuation is off for what it would cost, personally.
In today's market.
Yeah, in today's market, I think that's fair. I think that's a fair valuation. But yeah, if it was me with the resources, I wouldn't spend that on Cho with us in our current situation, which I also think is fair, right? I think for me, I agree with you that the platform has not been ideal for Cho so far. Obviously, there's the big injury there that held kept him out for about a year as well, and it's a Achilles. I think it's a difficult one to come back from and hit the ground running. But in the same vein, I also don't think that he's done enough with the platform that he has been given, if that makes sense. So, I look at it, and I always want to be fair to young players. Yeah, I always want to be fair to young players. So I'm talking purely on my observation of the guy. I'm not talking about what other people have said about him and whether or not I disagree with, where he's positioned, this, that, and the other. I'm just talking purely on the guy. I think he's a good young player with potential. And right now, I don't think that I could say any more than that based on what I've seen him do in men's football. I didn't watch him in the under-23s. I don't know about that record or what he did in those games, this, that, and the other, in any sort of detail. I just think, from what I've seen, he's a good young player with potential, and some of the underlying metrics look very good for him. Do you know what I mean? In terms of the chance creation, all the charts that you see, the pie charts and the scatter graphs. He's always in a good place in terms of, chance creation, key passes, and that kind of thing. So it says to me that, there is a player in there. But is that a guy that I would bring to Arsenal at this current point in time? Probably not. You know, I look at the makeup of our wide players. We got Saka, we got Smith Rowe, we got Martinelli. I think we need more of a shooter in there, and I think that's definitely one thing that I'm not seeing from Joe. Really is much goal scoring potential. To be honest. So I think that's one to watch. I personally think he should leave Chelsea. It's time for him to go and play football. And I think, you know, you can't make an accurate judgment about these young players until they play football. You know what I mean? So he needs to go and make a career for himself. And this probably might be the best opportunity to do that, because you're looking at Raheem Sterling coming in now. Like, you couldn't start above these bums that Chelsea had in wide attack. You're not starting in front of Sterling. I don't think wing back is a position for him either. So he needs to go play. And I think there's plenty of players who have left big clubs and still gone on to make quality careers for themselves. So yeah, I think it's time for him to go do that. Probably not at Arsenal though. So next question. That first one was from Baba Ronald, by the way. At Baba Ronald, so big up him. Next question from Ducks on Quack 9. What formations would you want to see implemented? For me, I'm gonna quick, short, and snapper one for me. But you can go longer if you want, Chaz. But I don't care about formation, man. I generally don't care. If we play 3 at the back, we play 4 at the back. We play 4-3-3. We play 4-2-3-1. We play 4-2-2-2. I don't care, as long as it works. It's effective. I know what the manager's doing. The players understand what the manager's doing, and we're winning games. Boy, then go do it. And we're scoring goals. Do you know what I mean? A formation to me means Jack. I have no reason to favour one over another as long as it's winning football, man.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think there's so much emphasis on formation. This is dots on a piece of paper at the start of the game. The players don't stand in fixed positions throughout the course of the 90 minutes. So the formations don't really mean something. But that said, you know, formation is a necessary part of every football match. You know, we don't start any single coverage of any single match anywhere now without formation. I think it is important. It does mean something. It is some sort of guiding mechanism for coaches, fans alike, you know, whatever. For me, I want to see us kind of continue to build on this 4-3-3 shape, you know, and a solid midfielder at the base, accompanied by 2 3-8s. You know, Ødegaard being one of them, and I'm most interested in understanding who the other 8 is going to be. You know, we're going to persist with and have to default back to Xhaka, which I like how he done a decent job for us last season, but you know, I've been very vocal in saying that I've had enough of that of that and need to see something different. You know, a player like Vieira, who's been brought in, is he going to be utilized there or integrated there? Do we still have targets out there on the market who we're trying to bring in? You know, we know Tielemans has been named as one of them. Is there someone else? So I'll be most interested in seeing what we do there with a 4-3-3. I'm looking forward to that. And a 4-2-3-1 is the other one.
Yeah, so similar question from let me see, this Bakeface Nate, right? So he says, what new tactics, lineups, combinations would you like to see us try over the course of preseason, right? So you touched on that a little bit. Do you know what I'm interested in seeing, Shabs, this season? I'll be honest. I would quite like us to try a couple of different things in those 8 positions that we have. If we do this 4-3-3, right, there's a couple of things I would like to see us sample. One, for me, is moving Ødegaard potentially out of that little pocket on the right and shifting him over to the other side, and then letting ESR play that right 8 position for me. And then also, I would like to see Saka play it potentially in that left 8 position as well. And I'll tell you the reasons for that is, for one, so looking at how these teams play in this sort of 4-3-3 stuff, right? So that ball that goes, you know, round the defenders, yeah, and between the keeper and the defense, I don't think we have that weapon in our arsenal right now. So I think the only one that can sort of play that ball maybe is Xhaka sometimes, and he doesn't really have the same whip on it. Do you know what I mean? Right? Like, so that's like when you see KDB in that right half space, Trent in that right half space, Bernardo in the left one, right? Or Robertson in the left one. You know, that ball that just goes whoop, vam. So difficult to defend because, you know, a defender coming across it, you know, could score an own goal, could go anywhere. You know, you saw, I think Modric do it with the outside of the boot again in the Champions League against Chelsea. Do you know what I mean? Right. And I think that's a big weapon. And when you have someone like, you know, Gabriel Jesus, who we've seen several times arrive at a back post. You got Saka attacking the back post. You got Martinelli attacking the back post. Maybe Smith Rowe as well. I think we're almost missing a trick not having that. And for me for one, I know that Ødegaard and Saka link up is very good, but I can't lie to you. I slightly prefer ESR and Saka's link up on that right hand side. I think it's a lot more dynamic in the way that they change positions. You know, with ease, it's almost telepathy, right? Like you think back to that goal we scored against West Brom in the snow, where, you know, every man doing whatever. Do you know what I mean? Just move, and it was nice, right? And Smith Rowe's comfortable on the outside, comfortable on the inside. Saka's comfortable on the outside, comfortable on the inside. And I think with Ødegaard, it's a lot more difficult to get those same rotations in because you know he's not going to overlap. And when you don't have the overlap in right back as well, it can be, you know, a little bit difficult to break down those deep blocks. So, you know, I would quite like to see ESR introduced back into that side of the pitch to link up with Saka because I think those two have got a great relationship together. So those are the two things I would potentially. Oh, and the Saka on the left side as well. I just think Saka would be amazing as an 8. So, you know, and he's got those deliveries on Smash. So
I like that. I like them things. I would like to see, and I don't necessarily believe that we have the personnel for this right now in terms of the way that our current squad matches, but I would like to see a marauding, attacking right back as a variation. Because I think we have the potential for that on the left side. With just the personnel that we have there, Tierney, who can be good when he gets forward, and Tavares, who's an absolute maniac defensively, but we've seen when he gets forward, he creates problems. I would like to see something like that on the right hand side as a variation. Not the way that we play. We know how we play. We know how Arteta wants to use the fullbacks. We know Arteta wants to line the fullbacks up with the lone 6 to provide protection against the break, and they invert and they're good with the ball and whatnot. And that's a big part of the reason why he wants Lisandro as well. I think all of that is fine, but I think you need variation on the pitch. And that's why I'd want a different option so that in games where it's not about us controlling possession, it's about us being able to add threat or commit further men forward. You know, I think like that's what I would like to see. I'd like to see Lokonga in the 8, definitely. You know, I think like he, as much as he didn't deliver on the promise or expectation last season, I also think he was hard done by, and I think there was poor utilization of him, and I think it was an unrealistic task that he was given at times. And I would like to see him being used sparingly, you know, because I think he has to earn it. Like, you know, it's not about niceties, but I think he has to earn it definitely. But I'd like to see him being used in one of those more advanced positions in midfield, because I think that he played some of his better football and gave us some of his better performances when he was used in that way. I think about the home performance against Newcastle, which was probably one of Eddie Howe's first games. We beat them 2-0, and he was, you know, I think he done like 5 key passes. Where Martinelli scored that goal, isn't it? In that game from the right hand side. That's that. I'd like to see a left footer on the left wing for us, you know. So whether that's a new player that we bring in, or whether it's Saka being used there sometimes or whatnot, I don't mind. As long as they're good. But I would like to see that again, just as some variation, definitely. definitely. And I think 3 at the back stuff is not new, or 5 at the back. We've seen that when he comes in. I'd like to see Saliba being given opportunities. That's what I want to see. That's not a tactical variation. That's more of a personnel choice. But yeah, Saliba needs to get minutes. For all things good at the Emirates Stadium, he needs to be given minutes. So I need to see that.
Yeah, fair play, man. Fair play. So we've got quite a few questions on midfield at the moment. So this one from PCBE, I'm going to read them all out, right, and then we can just tackle them. Right. So PCB Agiman, one, he said thoughts on Milinkovic Savic as a potential midfield target. Then Ords the first, he said 20-year-old Amadou Onana, what are your thoughts on him? Is he needed in our midfield? Brackets, not as a major signing for our midfield. And then we've got Cantana, he 25, and he says, who else would you want to bolster our midfield? Because I still think that's our weakest area. And then Don Mikel, very similar. I just want to know what you guys think we should do about midfield if everyone is not available. Yeah. So
I mean,
a lot of midfield chat, right? So quickly, Milinkovic. Would you be happy with that?
I don't know, because honestly speaking, he's not a player that I've watched in, like, there was a lot of buzz about him years ago, but he's not a player that I've watched in the last 2 years.
He went very quiet on him for time.
It's gone very quiet on him. And I think that's not for no reason, and he's at Lazio, isn't he? And yeah, like
27 now as well. So he's
getting on.
Prime age.
I don't know. So I like him technically. He's a big, tiring, imposing player. Does he have the physicality for the Premier League? I don't know. And I think he's just quietly going about doing his business in Italy. I don't know that he's setting the world alight. When I watch my Serie A highlights, he's not showing up as someone who's like, oh, actually,
doesn't pop off the screen, does he? Like that.
Forgotten about this guy. There's the reason why I need to be paying attention to him. So that's one that would underwhelm me. Yeah,
I think he's had his best goal scoring season since that 17-18 season, when he was, getting linked to every club in Europe, right? Where he scored 14 goals all comes that season, 12 in the league. And then I think since then he's gone 5 in the league, 7 in the league, 8 in the league. And then this season he scored 11 goals in the league. So I think maybe that's why his name's popped up. For me, this seems that Lazio are trying to, I don't think it's a coincidence that his name's popped up this summer, because you look at it, COVID is slapping everyone's head. And I think Lazio are probably looking to say, you know what, we're struggling. We need some peas. Can we, rouse up some interest in this brother, because he's probably our biggest sellable asset.
Yeah.
And so it doesn't surprise me. But for me, I'm not that enthused. I think he's probably a FIFA guy. He's a guy that, them guys, they're rated 86, 87 on FIFA. But reality, they're not quite that. So I'm not really having him. I'm like you, I've just watched comps of the guy. He's not been in my Serie A watch list at all. I've been focused on other players in that league. And I think if he was really pulling up trees in that league, we'd have been hearing about him in these days and weeks gone by. That would have been someone that people would have kept in the limelight if he was really performing to that level, like some of these other players across Europe. So again, the next one was Amadou Onana. So this guy, I've not watched him at all, right? I've seen some comps, and all I would say, I'm not going to write him off based on comps, but all I would say, the comps were not impressing me, man. They were not impressing me. So I'm not for that one.
I don't want that signing. That to me is we signed Lokonga last summer, and this signing is very Lokonga-ish. And for me, he's not the right age profile. He's not a proven enough player. Like, it's actually a risk to sign a player like that for our midfield. bear in mind we've signed Fab Vieira, who, you know, will I believe will be used eventually in some sort of midfield capacity. Yeah, I think definitely we can get some game time from the right. If we persist with, you know, having a 10 in a 4-2-3-1, he may get some games in the 10. But I think eventually the plan for him is once he's bulked up and acclimatized to the league, I think we'll see him play in the midfield. So why would we go and sign another 20-year-old? You know, when we've got 22-year-old Lukonga and 21-year-old Fab Vieira, or however old Vieira is.
22, yeah.
22.
They're both 22,
So, yeah, that's a risky signing for me. I wouldn't do that business.
Yeah, fair play. So, yeah, let's talk about. So, the other questions were who we would add to midfield. So, let's talk about some of the midfield targets that you would like to see us bring in, right?
So, I think the obvious one is Doucouré, Sheikh Doucouré. Yeah, it might be too late for him. It looks like he's going to Crystal Palace, but again, I think he's the type of player who represents a good deal, good business for us. I think he's the physical profile. He's not that souped up. I think he's 5'11". I don't think he's a giant or anything, but I think he's got that physicality definitely in terms of like that quickness, that mobility. He's a 6, you know. He's got the ability to pick up the ball from the base of midfield. He carries well. He tackles well. He's a defensive-minded midfielder. He's a defense first, but he's got something about him when he's on the ball. And for me, if Patrick Vieira is interested in him, then boy, I think there's something going on over there.
So, I mean, Vieira, we know about him in midfield, yeah.
So, know who he was exactly. So
we know about him in midfield. So
yeah, and I think his identification as well is of midfielders is good. I think if you think about it in this way, and this is not me saying. This is not me saying, yeah, I like Conor Gallagher or Conor Gallagher's the type of midfielder that we should sign. But I think the primary reason Palace are interested in signing Doucouré is because they need a defense-first midfielder who is high energy. Yeah, they've got a real challenge on their hands in terms of trying to replace Gallagher. Now, if they're prepared to go out and spend £22 million on this guy, it's because he's defense first, he's high energy, and he's going to give them lots of what it is that they're going to miss with Gallagher. I think that is, again, the type of profile of midfielder that we need and we're lacking. And yeah, ultimately, I would sign him. I also think he had a very good season last season for is at Lens. So that's it. Another guy, I don't know your thoughts on him, but I'm going to try and sneak in another one. Is Seko Fofana, who is his midfield partner at Lens. And, you know, I know the compilations haven't really done Seko Fofana justice, but I really like him.
I like the comps.
I really like him. Again, I think he's another one. People are saying about his touch looking higgy and that. This guy looks like a problem. He looks like a problem. You know, very good ball carrier, very present in the opposition box. Got hella, I don't know if he got hella goals. I know that when I'd see my little league on highlights again, he's a player who was popping up in and amongst the goals more often than not weeks. He made it into the league on team of the season. You know, you think about them, they've got many a midfielder in that league. Yeah, whether you want to say whatever you want to say about them, they've got many a midfielder in that league. Yeah, he's made it into the team of the season. Yeah, he can't have had a bad season for doing something like that. So he's a player that I like. And again, I think I would bring him in. Again, I think it's about us doing smart business now, bringing in the right age profile, but getting players of reasonable value who can add to our team, but who we can still extract value from if in 2-3 years down the line we want to sell, but who also will be quite inexpensive to replace and quite easy to replace. Like they're there and kind of in a middle-ish tier of player. We're not talking about elite footballers, elite midfielders, but there's someone who's going to come in and improve us in terms of the base that we're working in right now. So he's another one that I like that I would have sought to bring in.
Yeah, fair play, man, fair play. I think for me, yeah, I 100% agree with those two that you named, and I think it makes a lot of sense if you're talking about maintaining stability, when you are bringing players into the engine room, those guys play together, at Lons, and they understand each other. They knew, like, if you're talking about Czech Decore as sort of like a foil for Partey in that deeper six position. That's position that he played for Lons, and Seko played in that left eight. So they got those automatisms. They know, right, if Seko goes here and this where me check, I need to stand in it. Do you know what I mean? So I think that works very well. I think I'm looking around. Midfield is not. It's not given a lot.
Tough.
In Europe,
It's tough.
it's very difficult, right? There's names like Fabio Ruiz being banded about. I'm not sure. I want to spend money on that guy. Tielemans. I'm not sure I want to spend money on that guy. I would have 100% taken Yves Bissouma. Doesn't look like the club agreed with that.
Yeah.
Another
He was the one.
a couple names. Leon midfielders, Kakare, Lucas Paqueta. I'm still fans of those guys. I mentioned Kakare, I think, on a Patreon piece that we done together.
Yeah.
That guy's been on my list for a while. I'm still therefore taking him. Fabio Vieira, I think, is definitely an interesting one that we've signed already. So one to watch. I'm not sure what we do in midfield, to be honest, but I definitely think another midfielder will be coming. So, Shabs, 2 more questions before I wrap up.
I do just want to say on that. I do think more than ever, it is so important for us to get the midfield, the profile of player correct this summer. More so than the name. Yeah, I think the name's less important. It does not need to be a superstar. It needs to be a player who is able to do X, Y, and Z. Yeah. And that player for me has to be the right physical profile, has to have some technical quality, definitely, and has to be able to be an effective screen as well. And I think, we need that. If we want to rub Xhaka out of the starting 11, we absolutely need that as a minimum requirement, and maybe for more reasons than one. We need that.
Yeah, 100%, man, 100%. So 2 more questions. So this one's from Harry Sutherland. So he said, we were linked with
Harry.
Yeah, big up Harry, man. Saw him yesterday at football training as well. So big up him. He had to go off injured, man. So I hope his knee or his leg or his ankle is all right now, man. But
take it
anyways,
easy,
he's got to hold that. We were linked with a lot of tall target men in January, but no sort of links this summer. Do you think our blueprint changed? I think it's unlikely in a 6-month span, but can't work out why.
You know what, Harry? I think this is such an interesting point, and it's a question for me about why the strategy changed, because we were so clearly interested in Vlahovic. Like, without a shadow of a doubt, we made a move for Vlahovic. We tried to sign him. That was the name. Isak was another one. Now, Isak, I think, is less of a target man, but definitely is a tall, 6'4" as a striker. And then some of the other names we heard, I don't know how true or untrue they were, but Darwin Núñez was obviously one on the hit list. He's tall. Scamacca, he's 6'5". Tammy, he's tall. Ivan Toney. Ivan Toney's actually, there's a myth about Ivan Toney being tall, isn't it? Some sources say he's 5'11", other sources say he's like 6'2", 6'3". I think it depends on where you look at, depending on how tall Ivan Toney is. Calvert-Lewin. Like, these were the names on the hit list. So for me, that was very clearly a certain type of player and for a certain reason. And there was it looked like that was in line with or aligned with the strategy, a certain strategy. And we've gone for Jesus. And that's interesting to me. And I think we've gone for Jesus because of opportunity. You know, I don't know if the Jesus opportunity was there in January in terms of actually this guy's really could be leaving Man City and whatnot. The talk started to emerge in March. For us, that's the first that I heard anything about it. March, April, seemed to intensify. And then May, it was like, yeah, this is the deal that's going to happen. We just have to negotiate a fee. And then finally we got it done. But yeah, for me, and I wonder as well how much of a part Eddie has had to play in it as well, because I think we would have been in the market for two strikers had Eddie left as well. Would have had to have been in the market for two strikers. Would have just been too light on the ground otherwise. And I think if we had then gone into the market for two strikers, we probably would have gone for a different type, having gone for Jesus. So that's the only real thing I can think of. Is it because Eddie's come and kind of put a spanner in the works of those plans? And I think Jesus is an opportunity. And I think in that we've got to. And I think the thing with signing Jesus is that we know what it is that we're getting because Arteta's already familiar with him. So we know what it is that we're getting in a striker.
Yeah, and I think I definitely think Eddie re-signing is a big factor. I think the Jesus one, I'm not sure when that transpired. I think they said that the conversations have been going on for months, right? But I think it was definitely post-January that those ones started, right? So I think, Jesus, they probably didn't know whether or not he was 100% going to be on the market. Obviously, he's got a year left on his deal. So maybe that one was one they said, yeah, look, let's try and make that one work. Edu, obviously, with the Brazilian connection, got that one cracking. And I think with Eddie, even he did an interview earlier this year, right? And in that interview, he didn't give anything away about whether he's going to stay or leave. And it looked, for all intents and purposes, I don't know if everyone has watched that on TBG Pod, big up them. They done a nice interview with Brooke Norton-Cuffy as well this week that I thought was quite insightful. But on that podcast, for me and listening to it, I think it sounded like that Eddie was going to leave, and it sounded to me like he was ready to leave. And so I think the club was probably planning there around him leaving that. Yeah, fine, we're going to secure Jesus, and we know what attributes he has. And if he goes, this is the kind of striker that maybe can give us some different attributes that Jesus might not have, that aerial ability, etc., target and play. And I personally just think the manager actually really rates these two strikers and thinks that they will be enough attribute-wise and goal-scoring-wise to be able to play the way that he wants to play without necessarily having to go out and bring you a target man. And the reason for this is, I think the main reason you want a target man is to be, I think, an outlet, number one, for these long balls, be able to I guess, hold it up and be an out ball from the long ball, and secondly, to be an aerial target in the box, right? To get on the end of things and to get on the end of crosses. And I think Gabriel Jesus is really, really good in the air. Yeah, that is one thing. He scored a lot of headers for Man City, who aren't necessarily, a big sort of lump it in the box team. Obviously, they got great crossers, but he scores a lot of headers, without necessarily being the tallest. So I think that aerial presence in the box is met with Jesus, and I think both of these strikers are fantastic outlets, right? So not necessarily from the long ball to the chest or to the head, but a long ball into the channels is another way where you can be a fantastic outlet. And I think both of these strikers run the channels amazingly well, right? Yeah. So, so I think they give you some of the stuff that you get from a target man without necessarily being target man. And I think, Jesus, top technically, right? A ball into his feet, he can hold it up, he can dribble, this and the other. And I think Eddie showcased his back to goal play has improved drastically since he first came into the team, maybe down to some of that physicality that we mentioned at the top of the podcast as well. So I think between them, you get a lot of good attributes that I think suffice for the reason why you would want a target man. So this is the last question, Shabs. So I know it's just getting close to midnight, so I'll let you go to bed, man. After this, so this says, now that Gabriel Jesus has arrived, who would be your ideal attainable third forward, assuming you think we need one? So similar to the midfield one, this is talking about wingers or forwards or whoever.
I'll be honest with you, it was Rafinha, and I didn't even know it was Rafinha until the links were there and became real, and I was like, actually, this makes so much sense. But yeah, it looks like that one's fluffed. So for me, I actually would have loved him. I really like him. I think I've said this already. He badded us up in one of the games where he played against Leeds, and that made me wake up to him. And I said, you know what? This guy's a live wire. You know, this wasn't last season before. I said, this guy's a live wire. He's a bit of a bad man. He's Brazilian. He's wavy. Cool. And yeah, I think he showed me something. I was like, yeah, all right, cool. I'm with it. He's wavy, and I could see it. And I could see him on one side, Saka on the other side, them both interchanging, and that working really well with Jesus. I think they all have the ability as a front three to beat a man. They all have the ability to create, and they all have the ability to score goals. And I think that would have been something, like, they would have cooked up something, definitely. But it's not to be. It looks like that deal's dead in the water, and I don't think I can answer it, because if you asked me the other one, I would have said Serge Gnabry, but I don't know how attainable that is. I mean, Serge Gnabry would have been my ideal. He's my number one. Like, there's a chance to take him. Like, I'm taking him yesterday. What are you talking about? But I don't know if he's attainable. I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah. For me, yeah. I can't lie to you. I think if Serge Gnabry didn't play for Arsenal previously, I don't think anyone would even remotely link us to him, right? Because I give you the alternative is Raheem Sterling, right? So this is a guy who has won basically everything, 26, 27 years old. Were we looking at 300k per week, this, that, and the other? Were we even on the radar for Raheem Sterling? I don't think so, and I think everyone would have thought it would be, sort of silly that he would even consider us, and I think that's even with the Arteta connection. Do you know what I mean, right? And so, I think Gnabry, I just think that one's beyond us, man. I think it's beyond us. I have seen some links saying Arsenal monitoring the situation. I'm hoping they're true, man. I'm hoping they're true.
I hope they're true,
clappers off both feet, pacey, 1v1, he's got it. That's my guy from early, man. I even went back to Facebook, and I seen the statuses I was writing on Facebook back in them days, about Serge Gnabry. Like, he's one of my guys, early tweets, this and that from 2013. Loved him. So I mentioned under 23 when I was watching the under 23s, Bellerin and Gnabry on that right hand side. They were my guys, man. They were my guys together. I love them both. So, ideal. I think the other name that I mentioned before, I think I tweeted it, is Moussa Diaby. I'm a big fan of his, man. I think he's super explosive, very, very good 1v1. Also finishes off both feet as well. I'd love us to sign him for me. So that would be my other wing target. But Shabs, I'm going to ask you a question of myself, right? I'm going to put you on the spot right now. When are we recording this Emil Smith Rowe Patreon piece? Give me a day. Give me a day right now. I'm gonna and we're gonna hold you to it. Me and the listeners.
I think I can do Monday after evening. Monday after normal. Yeah, Monday evening. Okay. I think I can do, if that works for you.
Monday evening. I'll make it work, Shabs. I'll make it work. I'll make it work. I'll work around you. Yeah. So Monday evening, guys. You heard it here first. Stay tuned. Sign up to the Patreon if you don't want to miss out. Yeah, we're doing a special video pod for Emil Smith Rowe.
Smith Rowe.
Sakurai and Emil Smith Rowe, doing it on Emil Smith Rowe and reviewing his season just gone, looking at all 10 of his goals, etc., etc. So lock in to that one. And if, you know, Arsenal make a signing, you know, before they go on the USA tour, there'll be content for that as well. Yeah, there'll be Patreon content for that as well. So, you know, we'll be back
with it for you.
Shabs, thank you very much for joining me today. Thank you very much for joining me today. I've really enjoyed recording this pod. Hopefully you listeners have enjoyed it as well. And otherwise, yeah, we'll catch you on Monday. And if you're not a patron, you are missing out. But, you know, no hard feelings. And we'll catch you next week with another Touchy Gooners pod. Peace out.
Bless.